First, you must realize that you have no idea before you can know the idea. We scan across all the frequencies if we want to learn anything new. Let us begin.
What has physics done for me lately?
Furthermore, the equation E is equal mc squared.
We have now acquired a fateful power to alter and to destroy nature.
That's like when you're in physics and you go to Dreamworld saying, oh, this is a physics excursion.
Science. What is it all about?
The whole of human history all falls in the dust of one stroke of the nail file. You can't really get to grips with evolution unless you realise what an enormous amount of time.
Our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold.
You're tuned into what can only be described as the best radio station on this blue dot we call Earth. It is, of course, 4ZZZ, your community broadcaster, be it on your conventional wireless radio by tuning into the classic frequency of 102.1 FM, digital devices such as DAB or smart speaker, listening via the Community Radio Plus app, or streaming us live from our sensational website at 4ZZZ.org.au. And of course, you can always listen back to our show or any 4ZZZ show using the ingenious on-demand feature also found at that URL. We also now have a weekly podcast of the show for your listening pleasure, curated by Toby, a condensed version of the show without the music. Just search for our show name, which is, of course, No Idea, spelt with a K, your weekly dose of science. And joining me for this exciting episode of Science, two of my favourite science influencers. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Max.
Hello, Gabriel.
Are you a fidgeter, Max?
Yes, I am a bit. Oh, yes.
You are? Yeah, Peter, fidgeter?
Little bit.
There was a 1999 study that was looking into fidgeting, because I'm a bit of a fidgeter.
Yeah, okay.
And people have often told me it helps. People often tell me it helps with with exercising and stuff. It's like, oh, it's free exercise. So this 1999 study that looked into that. Yeah. They made 16 volunteers. Couldn't get away with this now. 16 volunteers overeat for 2 months by a lot. An extra 1,000 calories, which converted into Australian is a little over 4,000 kilojoules per day. So that's nearly half of what a typical human might be recommended to eat. Right. You know, if you follow a rough, typical
so 1.5 times what they should be eating.
1.5 times, exactly what they probably should have been eating. And then they tracked where those extra calories ended up. About 40% was deposited as fat, which combined with the small amount of other body tissues that was added, led to the 16 people gaining on average 4.5 kilos over the 2-month experiment. But a third of the excess got turned into heat by their bodies in non-exercise activity like fidgeting. And they did find a very small sample size of 16, but people who did the most fidgeting and other non-exercise activity, which does include things like walking around for non-exercise purposes, burned up more than those extra calories, more than a third, as heat, and gained less weight as a result. In fact, the person who was the biggest fidgeter of the 16, or the biggest non-exercise activity person of the 16, burned 69.2% of the excess calories in that sort of fidgeting and other non-exercise activity. What's that in calories, Max? 69.2% of 1,000 calories?
I don't know. 692?
Oh, what a coincidence, Max. Because it happens to be our 692nd show this morning.
I just love, you're halfway through the whole thing, and then I remember, it sort of dawns on me, I know.
You forget every week where we're going, and we always end up in the same place. 692 grams of calories on average per day they were burning in this fidgeting and other non-exercise activity. Anyway, that was obviously quite an old study, and they made people overeat and told them not to do any deliberate exercising throughout the study period. So if you are trying to lose weight to improve your health, don't do the opposite of that. Don't overeat and exercise deliberately. But also give fidgeting a go. There was a 2023 study that said...
Give fidgeting a go.
Listen to what... This is a quote from 2020, from a scientific paper in 2023. Free people's fidget factors, they said, in workplaces and schools, saying crushing the natural urge to move is a public health calamity.
Oh, okay.
So as you're listening this morning, get fidgeting.
Get active.
And Max, what do you... Oh, no, coming up on the show, I've got some boozy bees and some Japanese researchers who have found there might be a limit to how much you can clone an animal before it stops working. What do you got, Peter?
I'm looking at nature's perfect animal. The end point of evolution as we know it, which is crabs. So we're going to talk about some crab stuff, and then we're going to talk about some incredible footage that has come out past week.
And Max?
I'll be talking about some subatomic particle physics, so that should be enjoyable.
Something light.
Something light.
Which I don't
Something
understand
light.
quite well, but anyway.
And Max,
we'll see
can you
what
give us some
happens.
backing music to start fidgeting to?
Yes, we can. You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me, Max. We've got Gabriel.
Hello.
We've got Peter. And we're going to do this. What's happening?
You're about to get a talking to, Maximillian.
How do you say my name, Max?
What did I say?
Peter. Peter.
Oh.
Peter.
Oh, Peter.
Let's just work on that for next time, eh?
Okay.
Let's just make sure we know. I don't know a Peter who's coming in. I'll be here to tell you about crabs, because crabs are weird.
Yeah.
What do you guys think makes life difficult for a crab?
Sideways movement's got to be hard, right? Like, that can't be.
True.
You want to go forwards and you can't. I mean, I'm sure some
I mean, their eyes kind of help them. They don't have forward-facing eyes like we do.
But isn't it the ultimate shape to evolve into? So
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Everything becomes crab eventually.
Yeah,
Crab
so
is-
it must have something positive going on.
They do look a bit like, you know, when you see those videos of bodybuilders often on a bit of medical help with the bodybuilding, trying to reach and touch their arms behind their heads or something, or just like try and touch their backs.
That's a crab.
And they're quite vulnerable. That's a crab, isn't it? Like a crab, they're very vulnerable from behind.
They're evolving.
Their arms are too beefy. They can't. That's why you just grab them from behind when
True.
you go out catching mud crabs or something.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, this research comes to us from the US, where the blue crab is one of the most commercially and ecologically important species in the Chesapeake Bay, which is in the country's northwest. It's quite massive, actually, this bay. And blue crabs have a pretty complex life cycle. They spend 2 months as larvae, and then they come back into the bay, and then they become juvenile crabs. You wouldn't recognize them as larvae, but then they become these mini crabs, and then they sort of like live in these seabeds and partial refuge for, like, you know, fish that would be eating them. And then once they grow a bit bigger than that, then they move up into the bay, some other areas. So these crabs are supporting a major fishery. They play a key role in the bay's food web. So they want to know what's killing these crabs. You know, like learn their life cycle, know what their predators are, so that they know like what to control for in the fishery. Those sorts of things. Just sort of know about them. Now, this study ran for 37 years,
Okay.
from 1989 onward.
Yeah.
That is an exceptionally
You
long
love
study.
these studies. Yeah.
I love these studies
Yeah.
because it's so hard to find funding for these nowadays. Stuff like this is really, really difficult. This actually came out of the department. So it's the Smithsonian, actually, one of their research institutes, which is probably why they had were able to
I
do
love
such a long
thinking
study.
about what studies like this are happening now that we'll learn
Yeah.
about in 12 years' time. Like
Yeah,
up
true.
to year
Yeah.
7 of 33 and we'll learn
I
about
don't
it
know
later.
if they
20 years'
planned for
time.
it to go to 37 years. Who knows? But for this study, one of the things they did is they got juvenile crabs and they attached them to small metal spikes in the water with essentially a lead. Like they put crabs on leashes.
Okay.
I put them on like they had a 1 meter leash from this
Called a
spike in the
fishing
ground.
line.
So they were just sort of, they call them tethers, but they're a leash.
Yeah.
And so they allowed the crabs to move around and bury themselves in the sediment, which is their key natural defense to predators.
Right.
And they left them.
With the big
they are
line
big rope
pointing
coming
to
out.
where they are. This way to the crab.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. And then they were left for 24 hours. And then after that, the researchers came back to assess outcomes. A, whether they survived. B, whether they had any injuries. Or like, were they predated? And then sort of if there were remains of those that did not survive, looking at those remains to figure out what ate them.
Oh, so there's no
or
camera?
Killed them. No. Because
Oh, okay.
1989, Gabriel was when this started.
I just
so.
assumed some of the recent ones might have had cameras.
Maybe. There's lots of pictures of them picking them up and tying their leashes, which are, it's really cute. They also did just putting them on their leash.
Yeah.
I don't know if they come to the leash like a dog would, like when you tap it for a walk. But anyway, they didn't have cameras, but they did have high resolution sonar, so they were able to observe which animals were approaching and attacking the tethered crabs. Now, key thing, how many of these guys survived? Well, 74% of them survived across the full study, with over half released unharmed after the 24-hour period. So half were harmed, but half weren't harmed, so that's pretty good. And it turns out the thing that's killing the crabs is crabs.
Oh, really?
Other blue crabs.
Okay. Yeah.
It's cannibalism.
Yeah,
Or as I
okay.
like to call it, crabibalism.
Is there
So apparently-
a food source issue going on? What's going on?
No, they're known. They're actually
Oh,
known for
okay,
being
just-
a bit cannibalistic.
okay,
Like they knew
yeah.
that they did this, but they didn't know how much they did this.
So
they just
what
knew
you're
like,
saying,
if you
once we-
catch a couple of them,
Once we fully evolve, we're just going to eat each other.
that could be it. Maybe
Evolution's
this is what
final
happens.
form is a crab cannibal.
It makes evolutionary sense. And so they found out that 42% of crabs showed hallmarks of cannibalism, either with surviving with injuries or killed with remains left behind. But most importantly, there was no evidence of fish predation. 100% of the predation they found was cannibalism
Fantastic.
across their own kind.
27 years or
We could've
something.
done it in
37
the
years.
first 24
Across
hours.
37 years.
Can you imagine? When do you think they threw in the towel? Be like, I swear, just 3 more years, we'll get one fish.
We'll get one fish. Because, like they said, was this digging thing that they do, like burying themselves in the sediment, is meant to be a key defense against fish, so fish don't see them. Because crabs find prey through chemical and physical senses, meaning that they like going under the sand would not hide you from a crab. So it's kind of weird that they do this when 100% of their predation was from other crabs. Like at some point, you're going to have to start evolving to avoid your own kind.
That's right.
It's not the end of the road here. They did find that the smallest juveniles were twice as likely to be eaten, and that depth had an effect. So they were like, oh, maybe what they're doing is like when you're really little, you have to go to this one area so that you can avoid the big ones, but then the big ones will come there to eat the little ones, and like when they grow, the ones that grow the fastest will eat the ones around them, and a whole thing. So it's not just that cannibalism is dominant, it was the only source of predation of these juvenile blue crabs in this bay. So that is crazy. But to me, I think, as you've been saying, Max, it's like obviously it's helpful to help them manage the species, blah, 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 blah. But as we've been saying, what this shows me is that the only thing that can beat a crab is another crab.
That's right.
Their evolutionary
Crab wars.
perfection.
Okay. Is this
Yep.
about gamma rays?
Nothing to do with gamma rays, Max. It's about...
So no. What? Max, every story. Is this about gamma rays?
Is this about gamma rays or robot dogs, please?
yeah.
Can it be? Can we change it now?
You tune into 4ZZZ. The show's No Idea. With me, Max, Peta. Is that better? And Gabe. Part 2. Hit us up, Gabe.
Yes, Max. Before we do, we got some texts in. Ben texted in saying, dudes, I'm driving. This topic is making me itch. I'm assuming about the crabs.
I thought it would about the fidgeting.
You think it's the
You
fidgeting?
itch to fidget.
Well, Azaka
Please text
texted
in
in.
again and tell
Yeah.
us what it was.
Yeah. Izaka texted in, I fidget uncontrollably every time I listen to No Idea. Our show is text line is 0420626733. You can find that number on the 4ZZZ website, the Community Radio Plus app. Save it in the phone, shoot us a text. And yes, Max, it is time for my weird science. We've been talking a bit about... I've been talking a bit about drunk chimpanzees recently.
Yeah, keep this
Scrumping.
to yourself. This hasn't been... Well, also
scrumping.
drunk bats, don't forget.
Yeah, drunk
Yeah.
bats. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
And so now a new paper has come out this morning helping us answer the question, are bees drunk? Because there's also alcohol in nectar, not just in fruit, that the bats and the chimpanzees
Gives
are
them a bit
consuming.
of a buzz.
That's very good, Max. That's very good. The spread.
Clip it now. That way you can have a joke every episode.
Sorry.
Because in the ape stuff that we talk about, it's quite interesting to see that which apes can consume the ethanol-rich fruits that are fermenting on the ground and in the trees, which is chimps, gorillas, humans, probably bonobos, but not orangutans. And that's because that one mutation in a single gene evolved after our branch split away from the orangutan's branch in the evolutionary tree and led to us chimpanzees, bonobos, and obviously everything else on that tree as well. So there was a big evolutionary moment where we suddenly were able to process ethanol and able to access that food resource. But alcohol's all over the natural world. Yeast is a usually single-celled fungus. It turns sugar into energy and creates ethanol, the type of alcohol, as a byproduct. Alcohol is a toxin. So the alcohol that yeast produce makes it hard for other microorganisms to compete with it, like bacteria and other fungi. And so the yeast is able to capitalize on all the sugar there. The yeast is also then able to have a secondary reaction with the alcohol and with the ethanol and create more energy out of it. But it's a toxin. So anything else that goes and consumes it, unless it's got evolved to be able to deal with it, a tolerance, it's not going to be able to process. It's going to have a negative impact on animals and anything else that's going to.
Not that it doesn't have a negative impact on us. We're just a bit better at it. Just to be clear, we're not.
Well, we have an ability to process a small amount that's meant to be in like background amounts in fruit, not in huge amounts.
That we do to ourselves. That was a choice.
That's right.
Yeah. So the question is, what else out there in the animal kingdom is consuming alcohol, and what does that mean for how this has all evolved with this interaction between alcohol in the natural world and animals that need to get at that resource? So a new study has tested pollinators, bees, honeyeaters, and other animals that consume the sugary nectar produced by flowers to see just how much alcohol they're consuming. Published in the Royal Society of Open Science out of the University of California, Berkeley. Got a QS ranking?
14.
USC Berkeley. 12.
17.
Ooh.
They collected nectar from 29 flowering plant species, and they really went to a big effort. They went to the University of California, Berkeley's botanical gardens to find them. So they just went for a walk. And they calculated the alcohol in the nectar from those 29 species and found that 26 of them had detectable levels of alcohol in their nectar, which is pretty much all of them. So, and they're from a wide variety of places and different types of flowers, so quite widespread alcohol appearing in nectar from all sorts of different flowers. And then they use existing science to find out how much nectar bees and other pollinators will consume in a typical day. You assume all of their energy comes from the flower species that they're known to frequent, and then you put that all together and you've got an estimate for how much alcohol these animals are consuming, right?
Yeah.
Pretty simple math there to go from one to the other. So are bees consuming alcohol? Well, yeah, they are. If we assume they get all their energy from nectar, honeybees probably consume about 0.0000005 grams of alcohol per day.
Fair enough.
But they're also pretty tiny.
Exactly.
So what's the blood alcohol?
But a honeybee itself is also measured in grams, so that could be quite a lot for a honeybee. So what they did in this study is what we've done on previous shows and just tried to do relative to human levels of a standard drink.
Yeah.
So if we a standard drink in Australia is 10 grams of ethanol, obviously quite a bit more than 0.0000005
Drown a bee.
whatever it was. Yeah. And so, but the bee weighs a lot less. So if you make it the same grams per kilogram of
animal, as big as a human.
A honeybee is having about, and we assume that the alcohol is the same effect. So a standard is the same thing, we're assuming. Yeah. Honeybees are having about 1/3 of a standard honeybee drink per day.
There you go.
There you
Not
go.
that bad.
Yeah.
Not that bad.
The French have been doing that for yonks.
They also tested some other animals, though, including a couple species of hummingbirds, and they are having between 1 and 2 standard honeybird drinks per day.
Really?
Which is, and that's mainly, they think, driven by the fact that just hummingbirds have to eat so much more food to their body mass. They're such energetically, they're buzzing those wings and hovering a decent weight on those wings. It's an energy intensive activity. So they're consuming a lot more, which means they get more nectar. And the plants they frequent might have a bit more. But the bees are a bit more efficient because they're so much smaller. They're more efficient. They don't need as much energy per gram of bee. So they don't need to eat as much. So they get less alcohol as a result.
Yeah.
And so, they found that they are consuming alcohol, but it's not much. much. For the chimps, it was 1.4 standard equivalents. 1.4
I think the hummingbirds is a little alarming.
Yeah.
Hummingbirds are having quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And this
quite a lot.
This is assuming they're just consuming the average level of alcohol. What they have found in some of those recent chimp studies is they're seeking out some of the higher alcohol content fruit because it has more sugar. It's more ripe. It's a better resource.
Yeah.
So it could be higher than this if they are seeking out.
Maybe
the higher
that's why
ethanol-rich
hummingbirds run
fruit.
into stuff so much.
Maybe.
Maybe that's why they're crashing.
But it's kind of interesting to look at because there's this growing idea that there might actually be this sort of relationship going on between the yeast that produces the alcohol and the pollinators. This is still early level science and hasn't been established yet, but potentially the potency of ethanol and the ability to smell it could guide pollinators to the right flowers to be sucking nectar out of.
Yeah.
Because they've got a good big sugary resource of nectar in there. They suck it out and then they obviously have a bit of yeast on them as they leave. And so as they go from flower to flower, they're moving the yeast around from flower to flower too.
Right,
So there could be this relationship with when an animal evolves the ability to process ethanol, to deal with it, at least small quantities of it, then there's this positive feedback loop where they've got this exclusive resource that other animals can't get. So they go and smell it out. It leads them to a better supply of nectar. They can then take that nectar take that yeast to other pots of nectar in different flowers and spread it around the landscape. So there could be this whole relationship going on between
Everything's getting more alcoholic.
Producing yeast and alcohol consuming pollinators, which then could also play into the microbiomes of those pollinators because that could be how they're dealing with the alcohol is by having the right bacteria and other microorganisms in their guts and the rest of their body to process the alcohol.
Yeah.
And so there's this big sort of potential feedback loop of, oh, well, if you're not getting the right microbiomes in your pollinators, then they're not going to be able to process the ethanol, which means they're not going to be able to pollinate the flowers properly and not going to be, and on and on and on and on and on. So very cool early stage research, but led by the fact that, honeybees are consuming a third of a standard honeybee drink a day and hummingbirds are consuming about 1 or 2 standard hummingbird drinks a day worth of alcohol in their nectar. That's what I got for you, Max.
You tuned into Triple Z.
Whoa, what was that? Sorry, we might need to take him off air to reboot him. Jeez.
We're live at the moment. We've got Russell in the room. How you going, Russell? You're tuned into 4 Triple Z, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Russell, we've got Peta, we've got Gabe, and we've got part 3 of this. Since 1916, CSIRO, or CSIRO, has been at the forefront of global innovation. Innovations such as AeroGuard, softly washing liquid. This word they made up called petrichor, which is a word they came up to describe with the scent of rain in the air.
Isn't petrichor the scent of dust after rain?
Is
no.
it? Okay. Or
There's
rocks.
different words.
I'm looking it up.
Petrichor is the smell of after rain.
They developed the polymer banknotes. They helped out with the Hendra vaccine, and the classic one they did develop was Wi-Fi. So now they're getting into the battery business, apparently. CSIRO has practically demonstrated for the first time. Go and tell us, Peter.
Peter was right. It's the smell of dust after rain.
Yeah.
Don't ever test me on rain stuff. Don't test me on weather stuff. I know.
They showed for the first time that they could charge up a quantum battery. And quantum batteries are devices that use quantum physics to leverage enhanced efficiencies over conventional battery technologies. While research into these novel systems is still in its infancy, quantum batteries have the potential to revolutionize energy storage. They will offer higher energy storage capacity, faster charging rates, and longer battery lifetimes compared to conventional batteries.
Am I correct in, I think I saw that they said that actually one of the weird things was the faster, with these batteries, the faster it charges, the more it's like
Correct.
the bigger the battery, the faster it charges.
Because it's the square root of the number of particles. It's really weird, I know. Quantum batteries have long been theorized using principles of quantum mechanics, which govern the behavior of particles at the atomic and subatomic levels. And quantum effects such as superposition and entanglement are harnessed to enhance the storage and release of energy. One of the key concepts in quantum batteries is the use of superpositions of energy states. In a classical battery, energy is stored in discrete states, but in quantum battery, energy can be stored in superposition of multiple states simultaneously, and this should allow for higher energy density, thereby increasing the amount of energy that can be stored. And meanwhile, quantum entanglement, where particles become correlated in a way that their properties are linked, could enable the transfer of energy between quantum batteries, get this, without direct physical contact, potentially leading to more efficient energy transfer and reduced energy losses.
I do have a question on the without contact thing, because in my head what happens is you drive into a petrol station. I know this is probably not going to happen. You drive into like a charging station or whatever it is, and then your car just sits there for a few seconds and boom, it's up to charge.
Correct.
But so what if I'm in the car? What happens to me? Am I also charged?
Your molecule?
Like, will I get a light energy boost?
You might. And as you said, Peter, counterintuitively, the researchers were able to demonstrate for the first time that the larger a quantum battery becomes, the faster it charges. So that's why I put it into the weird category. Yeah, and
it's weird.
It should be noted that the demonstration battery was only able to hold its charge for a few nanoseconds. So the holy grail of quantum batteries is still some time off.
I think defeats one of a battery.
I think I might need to try and donate my work laptop to CSIRO because it seems to exist in a superposition between fully charged and not at all charged. And then whenever I look, it picks one of those two.
Okay.
Everyone at the station knows which show's the most appreciated.
Uncancelable.
It's obviously this one. Uncancelable. That's what I love to say about us. Everything we do, everything we say, everything we've ever put online, uncancelable.
Yeah.
On this day, in 2024, so 2 years ago, the controversial Titanic prop, which they called the door, which was actually a piece of carved wooden panelling from the first class lounge, sold.
Seems similar to a door.
Sold at auction for $1 million Australian dollars.
Wow.
And the controversy was, and Peter, you just told me you haven't seen the film, so
I've not seen the film.
Spoiler alert here.
Oh, it was that door.
No, we all know the story about the door.
And the question was on the punter's lips was, why didn't Jack hop on board the door with Rose? So a bit of
being dramatic.
A bit of movie science here. James Cameron, the director, had the door scientifically tested to prove that it would have tipped over if the combined weight of both Kate Winslet and Leonardo was sitting on.
That's so petty, and I'm really here for it. But I do question maybe it would have been worth to display that in the movie of them going, we should both try. Oh, we fell off. One person only.
And he also wanted the movie's Romeo and Juliet moment to happen. So
we all did.
Okay. You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me, Max. We've got Gabriel. We've got our friendly neighbourhood marine scientist, and we're going to do this.
Do you know what tuna is?
Fish.
It's fish!
Thank God someone's working on this. I don't know what I'd do without it.
Fish are friends, not food.
Great start. Gabe, what does the cat say?
Yeah.
Max, what does the chicken say?
Cluck, cluck.
And Izzy, what does a shark say?
What are we doing?
The year is 1820.
1820.
The Essex, a 27-metre whaling ship, has sunk off of the Galapagos. In the paper, first mate on the ship, Owen Chase, weirdly modern name as an aside. I thought that was very odd.
That is very
Owen Chase just sounds like a 2021
face, but in a name.
Yeah, iPhone name. What is that? Anyway, Owen Chase of 1820 describes the event. And I'm just going to ask you to imagine like swelling waves and like fiddle music in the background.
Sure.
I turned around and saw him, about 100 rods, directly ahead of us, coming down at twice his ordinary speed of around 24 knots, and it appeared with tenfold fury and vengeance in his aspect. The surf flew in all directions about him, with a continual violent thrashing of his tail. His head about half out of the water, and in that way he came upon us, and again struck the ship. Who do you think he is?
Charles Darwin.
You think Charles Darwin was in the water off of the Galapagos, swam at 24 knots, which is an incredible speed, faster
Max,
than
I'm
any
behind
Olympian.
you all the way. Locking in Charles Darwin. He's phoned a friend. We're going with it. Option A.
Yeah. So it wasn't Charles Darwin. He wasn't a faster swimmer than Ian Thorpe. That would be ridiculous. He was, according to those on the ship, a sperm whale. Right. And that story was the story that inspired the famous novel Moby Dick. In fact, multiple boats were said to have been struck by sperm whales. This was not a one-off account. 2 other boats were said to have been sunk by them within a 100-year period. And alongside these ship-sinking accounts, there have been scattered reports of sperm whales headbutting each other in what appeared to be aggression or competition between males, but the accounts were really rare and poorly documented, and it's just sort of been this folk tale, I guess, to explain it. So sperm whales, if you haven't seen them before, but I'd recommend looking them up, are wacky looking dudes. They have a famously distinct anatomy, specifically this huge head that's kind of square, and it can make up 40% of their body length, this head unit bit. Yeah. So it's sort of made up of 2 parts. So one is called the spermaceti organ, and then underneath that is called, quote, the junk. So they've got spermaceti and the junk. They got a lot of junk. It just isn't in the trunk. It's right up in the tip of their head. And both of those are sort of complex oil-filled structures. Lots of fat, lots of oil. It's one of the reasons they were hunted for whaling. It's because they were filled with oil. And in 2018, the CSIRO, another fantastic study by the CSIRO, they did a study on vessel strikes by whales, not just sperm whales, all whales, and counted 105 evidence of boat strikes by whales between 1840 and 2015.
Intentional by the whale?
Well, unsure. And a lot of those are anecdotal. So it's just sort of people have said that boats have been hit by whales and the boats could have been hit by whales. Yeah. But for a behaviour that's been described for as long as they've been studying the species, since the 1700s, there hasn't been any real scientific proof that it happens. And so it's been kind of contentious. We've been looking at them for a while now. They're not, the easiest to find, but they're also not the hardest. So people were a bit it's a bit weak. They're pretty big. Hard to miss them when they're at the surface. Pretty big.
And they come up for air. So
They do have to breathe. So kind of contentious. Some of the headbutting argument relied on this idea that is why their heads are like that, all big and square. And they were they must use them like rams do, and just butt each other. But it doesn't really work out because the dominant explanation for the evolution of this head anatomy has actually been acoustic. So spermaceti, the organ, and the junk are thought to be primarily used as an adaptation for sound production. And how else do I say this? The ladies like the loud guys. So having that really good ability to echolocate and make these big sounds has been gone through sexual selection as well. So there was a lot of reason for that to have evolved that way. There wasn't really any reason that it needed, combat had to come into it, There was enough reason that it could have evolved for that purpose alone. There was some research in 2016 that used mathematical modelling to prove that their heads could theoretically withstand butting without damaging their brains and other organs that they need. And they thought with this mathematical model, they showed that it could be a male-on-male event to compete for females as the males have significantly larger heads for their body size. But that's just maths. That's maths, baby. It doesn't tell you that it's actually happening. That's just some numbers. But that all changed this week because researchers from the University of St Andrews in the UK, QS ranking please.
University of St Andrews in the UK, 190.
Yeah, 200.
113, and they have changed the game. The researchers were not looking for this. They had their drones up looking at sperm whales for regular monitoring sort of research off of Portugal when they saw it. And they saw it 3 times.
Cool.
So the first instance involved 2 whales, both likely males based on their sort of head to body length ratios, in a group with only a solitary small dolphin nearby. And they saw in this instance multiple head-to-head and head-to-body contacts of varying force, where one whale repeatedly initiated travel, so moving, and then the other one was following and reapproaching it. And so one whale struck the other in its head with its the base of its tail, and then the rest of them were all headbutts. So we've seen it. That's pretty cool. Then another incident was, I think this was earlier. Yes, this was an earlier incident, was 3 whales. So 2 of similar size and 1 larger individual. So the 2 smaller whales swam towards each other and made head-to-head contact.
Yeah, right.
After which, so once they've made the head-to-head contact, boom, boom, headbutt, one of them sort of swerved and hit the other one's body again with its head. So it's sort of like a jab.
A 1-2.
Yeah, a 1-2, exactly, but horizontally. And so at impact, they were swimming at approximately 2.2 meters a second, which is about 8 kilometers an hour, which is the speed that our gold medal swimmers go.
Right, okay.
So pretty fast.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the larger one, though it wasn't involved at all, it was just swimming sort of nearby, was wearing an acoustic tag, so they were able to catch the coders, which is this click sequences that they use in social communication.
Yeah.
So it kind of suggested that the interaction was social and maybe fun. I don't know. It didn't seem like they were like, oh, it doesn't sound aggressive. Just sounds like they're having a good time. Which, I don't know. Sure, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it checks out. These
Yeah.
just male whales just smashing their heads together for fun. Why not?
It's like
Doesn't
Friday
sound
Night in the Valley.
unlikely, right?
The ladies are sort of 3 kilometers away going, they're at it again.
Jesus, yeah, get me away from this.
I'm
They did
hungry.
also see that they were doing other behaviours that were like known social behaviours like jaw gaping and rolling and stuff. So they were having a good time.
Sure.
And then, also I should say, to back up that theory that, it's these, you got that. I hadn't actually told you yet that every whale that was seen headbutting was a young male. They were all young and they were all male. So we just have that feeling in our bones that it's a young man doing something dumb. And that is correct. So the third one is one that they've gotten on video and shared around. So if you can find it, it's really cool. So this is 2 young males and a smaller female. It is... It's crazy to watch. It is absolutely crazy to watch. Because, okay, so one thing to keep in mind with this one is that both males were visibly in the mood, to put it lightly. Visibly, before anything happened.
Right.
So this one may not be so social, it may be socio-sexual, is the idea. But so these 2 men are cruising, and then there's this younger female, or like smaller female, over to the right. And out of nowhere, honestly, out of nowhere, one of them just decides it's her time, I guess, because he just turns and rams her really hard in the rams the female really hard with his head. And his speed at impact was 12.9 kilometers an hour, which is really fast. So they calculated the force of the impact to her body, and it was approximately 200 kilonewtons.
What is that?
Right. So I was like, I don't know what that is, but it seems like a lot. So I tried to do some really rough calculations, and apparently being hit by a bus is 178 kilonewtons. So he hit her
with
at
a bus.
Force that was harder than a bus, which kind of makes sense. Like, think about it for a small second. They're roughly the size and shape of a bus.
Yeah.
So really the only thing that's surprising here is that they can hit with that intensity through the water. They did say that if you scaled it up, because he's a young male, he's not that big, but if you scaled it up to a 17-meter adult male, the same speed would be about 1,000 kilonewtons. So a lot of buses.
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes they have like, I think in the trams in Melbourne, they have a thing that's like, if you get hit by a tram, it's like being hit by 30 rhinos. Well, guess what? It might just be one sperm whale, which shows you a lot about sperm whales.
Recalibrate that. Yeah.
Also, sort of just before the male strikes the female, this other male just like immediately changes course to go like hang out with them or head towards them. But immediately after this, the female left. She like just left, and she wasn't followed, so it wasn't like they were trying to get something from her. I mean, I would leave too, but they also didn't follow her. They were just kind of like, okay,
That's
moving on.
bizarre.
And so this is interesting, right? So why are they doing that? Why are they doing it at all? That is still unanswered. And it will stay that way until we can see a lot more of this, because there's only 3 times they've ever seen this. So once we get some more, we might know. But they think the best guess at the moment is that it's a form of rough play, which is seen across the animal kingdom in teenagers. But specifically, one of the things with sperm whales is that males leave the pods when they get past their teenage years. They're kind of evicted, really, by the females. They're like, you are being annoying, get out. Go live on your own. So they're kind of solitary. And they think that this could be one of the contributing factors in that social transition because the young male headbutted the female and then she just left. It's kind of like, well, if you're going to be that way, I'm just going to leave and you cannot be part of the pod anymore. That's sort of the idea of what's going on here, is that they ostracize themselves by being annoying. But yeah, they are butt-headed bulls.
Cool.
Sperm whales.
You tuned into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me, Max. We've got Maximillian, we've got Gabriel. And
Single press overtake, stay in scenario 7.
If you push me off the track, I think you have to leave a space. All the time you have to leave a space.
Come on. Get it, girl. Get it. Woo! Yeah, you don't need to tell me that. Max, we're in this together, mate. Head down. Come on. Yes! Great job, guys. That was hard work. Oh, that was hard work.
Hit us up with some F1 news, Maximillian.
Big one this week. Jonathan Wheatley has left Audi, where he was team principal, to pastures unknown, but we're thinking Aston Martin, right?
Might be trying to, get his... give me a bit of background about Wheatley. Why is he so popular?
Well, he's just been in the paddock a very long time. I mean, he got to start back in 95 with Benetton, and then went over to... It went through there with the championships with Alonso as well when they turned into Renault. Then got poached by Red Bull, and then became the sporting director there. And he was always sort of tipped if Christian ever left the Red Bull that he'd be the next in line for team principal. Probably the most infamous moment of his career is that he was the one lobbying Michael Massey in Abu Dhabi 2021.
Yes,
to get one racing lap in because they knew they could do it and they could win that championship.
Which also saw the sacking of Michael Massey. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
well.
Anyway,
it'd be interesting to see because obviously there was a bit of rumour with Christian Horner, his former boss at Red Bull, being linked to Aston Martin, but apparently Adrian Newey has put the kibosh on that twice.
Yes.
So it looks like might be Wheatley's for the taking.
So Adrian Newey wants a more of a background job now, just being a technical director. He doesn't want to be team principal while he sorts out the Aston Martin's vibration issues. And they got a rookie.
He had a taste of our questions clearly, and decided it wasn't for him.
That's it. We've got a rookie coming in for free practice 1 because it's a Japanese Grand Prix happening this weekend. So we'll talk about that more later. Let's talk about Max Verstappen. Or you got any other Formula 1 news you want to talk about? Maximilian?
I think that's it. Is
Gabriel?
that
yeah,
no? Good. What's Max been up to?
So he's allowed to race in other categories now, and he's gone. He loves his GT3 racing, and he mainly just did it on a sim. So I think the group was called Redline, and
Team Redline.
Yeah, now it's called Max Verstappen Sims or something like that. And he raced on the weekend in the second race of the year of the 4-hour GT3 race called NLS2. And this time he was driving a Mercedes. Last time you would have seen him do this was back in September last year, where he was driving a Ferrari with his teammate Chris Lollam.
And there's some irony here, right, that he's driving for
Mercedes,
effectively his competitors in Formula One.
Exactly.
But they're very happy to have him in other series.
And last time he went around the circuit, he won it by 24 seconds. So this time out, he was joined by 2 other co-drivers, Daniel Juncadella and Jules Gunnan. Mm-hmm. And they managed to start the race on pole, and Max drove the first and final stints to secure the race win of just over 59 seconds to the second place BMW. Unfortunately, post-race scrutineering found that Max's team had used 7 sets of tyres instead of the 6 mandated for the whole weekend, so they were subsequently were disqualified.
Can't waste tyres.
But, I don't think this will worry Max as such, because ultimately he just wants to learn the track and get ready for the Nürburgring 24-hour, which is happening in May. And there may be one more opportunity for Verstappen to drive his Mercedes GT3 in April, with the cancellation of the 2 F1 races in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. So that should be pretty good. Okay, MotoGP. I know Pete loves his MotoGP. It was in Brazil on the weekend. And it's been 22 years since they've raced in Brazil. And the track had a few issues. Namely, they had a huge pothole in the middle of the straight caused by cracked... They had some torrential rain, and there was a drainage pipe running underneath the straight, and it cracked and subsequently made a pothole, or sinkhole, if you want to say that. Fortunately, it was off the racing line, so the riders were still, they were a little concerned, but they were happy to race. And so they did a sprint race and they did a feature race on the Sunday. And the Aprilias look really quick this year as against the Ducatis. So it was won by Marco Bezzecchi riding Aprilia, and second was George Martin also riding an Aprilia. And then my next favourite racing car category at the moment is NASCAR, because I get to watch former supercar champion Shane Van Gisbergen, or SVG, learn racing that he's never done before in his life, and that is on oval circuits in America. And this time it was in Darlington. And Shane finished, he started from 33 on the grid, which doesn't really mean much because it's a rolling grid anyway for the start. But he managed to get up to 14th overall, which is a superb effort. And now SVG sits 15th in the championship. And as we know, he has to be 16th or better. So he's looking good to get into the finals later on in the year if he keeps up this momentum.
Brilliant.
F1 Japan this weekend. It's a traditional race weekend, so that means you get your free practice 1 on the Friday, and then free practice 2, and then free practice 3 on the Saturday morning. And because they're sort of in our time zone, Sunday's feature race will be at 3 p.m. Brisbane time, 2 p.m. for you, Gabe. So I'm saying to listeners, no excuses for not watching the Formula One.
MotoGP's on as well over the weekend at the Circuit of the Americas. Two good ones.
Last point on Suzuka, though. So looking forward to seeing this generation of cars tackle 130R, which is that big left-hander that's been, in the previous generation, effectively became just flat out. And now we'll get to see, these cars are maybe a little bit more squirrely. The drivers have to fight them a bit harder. It'll be interesting to see how they tackle that corner in particular.
Cool.
Yeah. And it will be the last race for about a month, with 2 races in the Middle East now officially cancelled in April. So it's going to be Miami, the next one in May. So last one for a while. And there'll be a big break, which will be interesting to see how the teams use it to fix up cars, and potentially a couple of little rule tweaks from the FIA regulatory body of F1 with this new generation of cars, maybe trying to tweak some stuff now that they've got being gifted this month off. Yeah. See what happens.
I think this whole show is a science experiment.
All right. Yeah, let's just get into the science. Our safe place.
Triple Z.
We want to appeal to your senses.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Peter. What do you got for us, Gabe?
Got a question for you. How often can you clone something before it starts going bad? Do you have any ideas?
I read
Dolly
the study,
sheep.
so I have an idea.
Like Dolly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would say it has to be finite, because it's like a piece of paper, and you know how you fold an A4 piece of paper. There's like a limit, isn't it? Like 7. You can only fold it like 7 times, and that's it.
Something like that.
Yeah.
They just did this with crepes too.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm thinking
next week maybe.
Yeah. It would not until they develop into a crab. There you go. That's my answer.
Until they develop into a crab.
Gene edit something until it's a crab. Leave it.
No edit.
Well, perfect.
Edit. Just copy. How many times can you copy the same genes before it goes bad? I want some numbers.
Oh, really? You want? Oh, okay. What sort of being? A human being?
A mouse.
A mouse, thank you. Okay. Yeah, so they haven't got as many cells as us. Okay, so it'd be the number...
Doesn't change the length of the genome, though. Some things that are smaller than us have bigger genomes.
The size does play an impact, though, because the more cells you have, the more chances that something can go wrong.
That's true.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of thinking. So the number of cells times double the number of cells. So 2 times whatever, how many cells.
You reckon it's in the thousands or millions or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So in July 5th, 1996, like we mentioned, a sheep called Dolly was born, except a sheep exactly like Dolly had already been born, because Dolly was, of course, a clone.
Yeah.
Oh,
fan of clones.
We've got a clone fan already subscribing.
Or a clone.
Or an actual clone.
You'd never know.
Dolly, so Dolly was a genetic copy of an existing sheep. The cloning process is as simple to describe, hard to do. It's you take a cell, body cell from a living animal. You extract the nucleus from it, which is that bit of your cell that contains all the good stuff, all the DNA. A second one.
Well, they're clones, Gabe.
Welcome to
They can't just be one.
They come in pairs. You had the original and then the clone, of course.
It keeps going off. Are they testing it or something?
They must be.
Ready for
Or maybe
April.
they just want our show to be derailed.
Someone's got a vendetta against this cloning segment going to air.
Oh, stop. It's just going off all the time. Okay,
You're getting messed with now.
No more baby heart seal. Yeah. Well,
Dolly is a sheep from the mammary glands of one sheep. They extracted the nucleus, which has all that DNA sitting in there in the chromosomes, and they put it into another cell of another sheep. So you get two cells from sheep. You take the nucleus out of both. You put one in the other. Swap the DNA from existing cells, in the egg cells of the second one. Put the nucleus into the egg cell, and you're away. You go. The unfortunate thing is it doesn't work most of the time. Hundreds of attempts would led to Dolly being created, the first mammal to be cloned. Dolly developed bad arthritis, though, at age 5 and passed away at age 6, about half the usual age of the breed. Turns out Dolly's death was caused by a lung disease, which was contagious and spread through the whole flock. So it wasn't related to the cloning. But the other health impacts, like the arthritis, could have been related to the cloning. And so there was a lot of suspicion kicked up at the time that was more or less laid to rest, but has led to a lot of suspicion around cloned animals not being as healthy as uncloned individuals, and a lot of fears over how rampant cloning could become, right? And how easy it could be. It is such a relatively simple process, hard to achieve, but a simple idea of just putting the nucleus of one cell of an animal into the egg cell of the same species, and you can just create the exact same genetic animal again, and just clone it. So this study has tried to look in, is there an actual limit? Do those health defects that may creep in to a cloned animal lead to it just suddenly reaching a limit where you can no longer clone it anymore?
And this is iterations, right? So it grows, like it goes egg, fetus, born or whatever, then they take it from the adult and then do it again from that adult. Not like they've done multiple eggs at one time.
Exactly right. So they did this on mice out of a Japanese university, the University of Yamanashi, QS ranking.
Ooh, 420.
Yeah, 500.
771 to 780. So yes, Peter, they did exactly that. They cloned mice continuously for 20 years. They take a bunch, 20 years. They take a bunch. They take a bunch and clone them into a second generation, take the second generation, clone them into a third generation, take the third generation, clone them into a fourth generation. So they were doing multiple mice, but throughout multiple generations. Just each exact same DNA, letting it grow, taking that cell, making new mice out of it again and again and again and again for 20 years. The first few generations, no hitches at all. Nothing wrong with them. Healthy, couldn't find anything. They did DNA work. They couldn't find any instances of large-scale DNA mutations showing up. Nothing like that. So they kept going until they reached into the 20s, and then they hit 27 generations of taking these mice, letting them grow, cloning them, taking these mice, letting them grow, cloning them. And they reached number 27, and that's when they started to notice some birth rates going down due to DNA mutations building up. But the mice were still growing. They were still, some of them were still doing all right. So they kept going. They kept cloning those mice into the 30s, into the 40s, into the 50 generations. They reached 55, 56, and they tried to go one more time, and they could not survive the birth. After 57 generations of consistent cloning of the same DNA, letting it grow, cloning it again, they could not get a surviving mouse coming out of that 57th round of cloning. So 57, Max, is the limit to how much you can clone a mouse. 57 times. It will take you 20 years to try.
So is that saying that the DNA is degrading while they're alive? Like while they're growing? Because how else would it degrade?
Yeah, pretty much. So as they're saying that as you go beyond about 25 generations, you get accumulations of DNA mutations. Usually we would repair these through natural mating, through sexual reproduction, where we combine our DNA
with someone else's.
Another's. With someone else's. You go half, and there is some of the mutations get ironed out during that process because you have that recombination effect getting added in. So yeah, Peter, because it's just a single set of DNA growing for 20 years, doing a lot of growth in that time because it's going from a single cell into a fully grown adult mouse, or at least a grown adult, decently grown mouse, it's just leading to all of these cases where those individual cells can just mutate. Something goes wrong during that process of the cells creating the mouse from an egg to the mouse. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, and so you get mutations that come in. Those lead to health impacts, and by the time you hit about 25 generations, those start having noticeable impacts on things like the birth rate of these mice. And by the time you hit 57 generations, you can't viably clone that DNA again. So it shows just how important in something like a mouse our method of reproduction is, combining DNA with two individuals in each round to make sure that you cancel out some of those mutation effects. They tested that by taking some of the late generation clones and letting them naturally reproduce.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
With uncloned mice, and they produced viable offspring with far lower levels of the mutations. Cool. So they showed that it built up in the clones, and then they got some late generation clones, bred them naturally, and the offspring were even down into the grand offspring, so the grandchildren of those ones were still looking healthy and viable and a lot lower levels of mutations than the clones had. So pretty amazing research to do over the course of 20 years to clone the same mice for 57 generations to show there is a limit to how much you can clone something. Our DNA needs that recombination through sexual reproduction, or at least the mouse DNA does, and you can assume a humans would be somewhat similar in that there'd be a limit to how much you could clone a human too.
I'd imagine it'd be less.
Yeah, well, I'd be curious to see, but pretty amazing research to do, and shows us there is a limit to how much you can clone an animal.
I hope George Lucas is looking at this with the Star Wars.
I reckon the Star Wars stuff would not work, would it? It'd have to change every 25 generations to a
give them blonde hair or
clone.
something, change it up a little bit.
Or let them have some fun and then start cloning the offspring.
I'll do that.
If you have a science show on Wednesday morning, no idea.
I love that show so much. They're great. I don't know, for some reason I just don't usually listen on a Wednesday morning, but I did. And I thought, wow, this show is the best. It really is so well done.
Yeah. You tuned into 4ZZZ. And the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me, Max. We've got Peter. What do you got for us, Gabe?
Max, we've got some radio stats about... we often think that the radio is sort of constricted to
the older generation.
To Gen X, the older gens.
Yeah, my gen.
And they do remain the most loyal and traditional FM radio listeners. But there's been some cool stats coming out recently showing that Gen Z is tuning into radio. Maybe a nostalgia thing. Maybe trying it out, something new, slowing down, detoxing, wherever it is.
Something they can talk to their parents about.
Something they can have in common with their parents. Yeah, that's a good one. And there's been a couple of reports coming out. There's some of the stats come out of Australia, some have come out of the UK, some come out of the US. But they've found that listenership is about 80%, about 8 in 10 of that sort of 18 to 50 age group is still tuning in to radio, and podcasts, of course, as well, surging in the younger demographic as well, proving, I don't know, I think radio's here to stay. Certainly while everyone's still driving around, which, well...
That's right. Or if they can. With $3 a litre.
So maybe we've probably got our lowest listenership in the last few months, Max, with the petrol prices about to start with a 3.
Yeah.
But the only thing, I feel like what I really like is that on 4ZZZ, there's shows for everyone. Like every demographic has something that's dedicated for it, and then there's stuff that's just built for everyone, and it's not locked in. A lot of the other stations you tune into, and they're sort of focused on our demographic. They're trying to lock down one core audience, and 4ZZZ's always tried to be a radio for everyone.
Exactly.
And we're the science show for the community. Yeah, we're the science show, so we try and bring out science news for everyone and focus on local science news. And there's just such a diversity of shows on the air that there's something for everyone. And once per show, we do ask that you try and help us keep doing that, because the reason we can keep doing these shows and the reason we can keep the lights on, the reason we can keep the radio waves going out is because we have a small but mighty group of amazing supporters to 4ZZZ who subscribe to the station with an annual subscription and keep us running. And so if you aren't a subscriber to this station and have a look, it's 4ZZZ.org.au/support. Just check it out. There's a whole bunch of different options, Max. You got them on the wall. You
I
wanna
do,
read them out?
yes. If you're under 18, it's $25. If you want to subscribe your pet, it's $25. Concession is $40. A full subscription is $80. A passionate subscriber, $140. Or a super sub, $500. And there's stuff for bands and businesses and households. Just check it out on the website. It's all there. Or you can ring downstairs and on 07 3252 1555 during 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and they'll walk you through it and get you hooked up with a subscription or some merch if you want some merch. And they have a monthly prize, and that's from Glitter Records, and it's a new limited edition tote bag in collaboration with Brisbane's number 7 print house. So yeah, check that out. You might go into the running for that, or wait for April Atonement, which is coming up
Round the corner next show.
Exactly.
There'll be some prizes as well on the line. And if you do subscribe, we also get to see your name pop up when you text into the show. Like Pete, who said, I thought clones turned bad when Senator Palpatine said execute Order 66. Or Mossman, how about Django Fett?
Yeah.
We got a lot of Star Wars texts in.
Yeah.
Pete texted about the MotoGP, not the F1. Total domination from Marquez and Ducati in that. With the next race coming up this weekend, Marco texted in about the crabs saying the hunted become the hunter. and we got a few texts in from Marco and Ant-Man about your quantum batteries, Max. And Ant-Man texted in saying quantum physics being used in rechargeable batteries is truly mind-blowing.
It is.
I guess everything had to start from some infancy. So yeah, text us in 0420626733 whether or not you're a subscriber. But if you are a subscriber, we get to see your name and chat to you, which is always a bit of fun. If you aren't a subscriber, check it out on 4ZZZ.org.au/support and help keep us running.
And if you want to subscribe, get onto the website 4ZZZ.org.au/support.
There's an extra Z in that one.
Maybe. You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We're at Gabe, and what do you got for us, Peter?
I'm stepping out of my little ocean world because I found something really cool. My bubble.
Very good.
70% of the planet, but who's counting?
Little bubble.
To look at some neuroscience, which is sort of my other thing that I'm really interested in. And there's some new research here that kind of, I think, is a bit surprising. So if you were out and about, if you were just looking, you were listening for something and you couldn't quite hear it, or you were trying to think about, I want to focus on this sound, what would you do?
If I was trying to focus on a sound, what would I do?
Instinctively, if you wanted to focus on a sound.
You
wanted to hear better.
You look towards it.
I would turn one ear towards it.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think something a lot of people do
and do the
is,
little ear flap thing. Push your ear out.
And stop breathing for
I
a
would
little.
not.
Maybe
all of those things. I think something that a lot of people do is close our eyes.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
All of us
Block
have done
off.
that thing where you go like, all right, let's block off the visual and let's focus on the auditory.
In my head, I was thinking trying to focus on someone talking in a loud context. So I was watching their mouth as well.
Right. That's important, yeah.
When it's just a small thing off in the distance, or if it's like a small sound in my headphones or something, definitely closing the eyes.
You're closing your eyes trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So some research has come out that says that it doesn't seem to help. Especially, they've actually tested this, which seems wild to me because it's something we all just instinctively do. So this comes to us from Shanghai Jiao Tong University. Cue us a ranking, please.
Oh, I haven't the foggiest.
220.
This is one of those ones because I've never heard of it before.
Yes,
That's either
it
going to
could be a
really
range.
high or in the top bit. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna say 89.
It's 47.
Oh,
47.
Yeah.
They're really high.
Yeah.
I think the cute clue there is that it's Shanghai, so it's the big city. Can always help us out there.
I assume there's more than one university in Shanghai, so you never know.
I mean, I also assume that, I'm just saying it's a helpful clue. So participants in the study listened to a range of sounds through headphones while background noise was being played at the same time. And so all they had to do, really simple task, is just adjust the volume until each sound was just barely audible over the noise. So what's the quietest you can still hear these sounds above that noise? And they kind of looked at several visual conditions. So they had one of them was your eyes closed the way we would expect it to do, that we would naturally do. Then repeating the task with your eyes open while looking at a blank screen, and then doing it viewing a still image related to the sound, and then watching a video that matched what they're hearing. So if there's a bird noise, you see a bird, that sort of stuff. And they found that, I don't know, contrary to what I would assume, closing your eyes actually impairs your ability to detect the sounds.
Oh,
so
there you go.
Yeah. So the thing that helped the most was a dynamic video of corresponding to the sound, which does kind of make sense, I guess, as you get that. You're like, oh, yes, that makes sense. A crow makes sense because I can see a crow. And that does make sense to me. But I think it's interesting because I've always assumed that it is this, like, telling your brain, oh, let's not look at all this extra information, like shutting down the processing requirements so that you can focus on something else. But apparently that's not quite how it works. It's your brain is trying to give you, I think the way to think of it is your brain has a bunch of inputs and it's trying to find patterns from those inputs. And so what this is telling us is that it's sort of reinforcing that the easiest way for your brain to find an input and to focus on something is if it has multiple sources of information about that input. So if you can see a bird and hear a bird, you're more likely going to think, I can hear a bird, because your visual system is corroborating that information. So they actually used an EEG as well to track the brain activity during the tests, and they found that when you close your eyes, it shifts your brain into a state known as neural criticality, which increases strongly how much it filters incoming information, which is sort of what I think we all assumed it was doing, but we thought it would help us focus. But it's not really just that. It's almost like, do you know when you're on a phone call and someone's got their noise cancellation on their microphone and it starts cutting off the end of their sentence? It's that. It's filtering, but it goes way past what we want it to do. It starts filtering out useful bits of information as well. So when you close your eyes, your brain just goes, okay, we're filtering stuff now. And so these quiet noises, especially in areas where there's background noise, kind of get shut off. They get cut off as well from your brain. So they did say that it appears to be specific to noisy environments and that they didn't test quieter conditions. So closing your eyes might still improve your ability to detect subtle sounds. But given most of us live in areas where there is significant background noise all of the time, they think that maybe keeping your eyes open is a much more effective strategy in the majority of our situations to be able to hear better. Keep your eyes open, hear better. Sort of an idea.
Max, what are we focusing on for the next few minutes?
We got a text in from Marco and they said that there's an old saying, I see with my ears and hear with my eyes. Anyway, and we've got to also say thank you to Christopher from Heritage Park for subscribing. You would have heard the baby harp seal. That one was legit.
A weekly dose of science on 4ZZZ is now available as a podcast.
I learned that you can hear the difference between different water temperatures when they're poured. I'm going to pour one after the other into a different glass, and you have to tell me which one is which temperature. I've got a hot and a cold. Right, here's the first one. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm saying cold.
It sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Here's the second one. Well played.
Shut up. Search No Idea 4ZZZ on your favourite podcasting app. That's spelled KNOW, like no idea. It's a visual pun on an audio platform. I don't know why we did it.
No idea. Space news. Well, we've got the new space race, haven't we, with America v China. But back in the 60s, we had the space race with the Russians. And some old photos of the Gemini space program have been made public. And they're from 1966, and they're photos that feature the Gemini 8 space capsule when it returned back to Earth, and the two astronauts on board, who were Neil Armstrong, you know that name, and David Scott. After their premature return from space, one of the mission's goals was to complete the first docking in space. But minutes after accomplishing this, both spacecraft started tumbling uncontrollably. So the astronauts separated from the other spacecraft, but the spinning continued. Armstrong made a calculated decision, deploying the craft's thrusters to stop the spinning, but in doing so depleted the vital fuel on board, so they had to return home earlier than was just for safety reasons. So yeah. No, it's amazing. We forget about the 60s and how they had the Gemini program and then the Apollo program. Now we've got the Artemis program, which is meant to launch April 1. I don't know if that's meant to be a joke or not, but we'll see. Shadow Cam orbits the moon. It was launched back in 2022. And it's an instrument that takes observations of how much moon ice. And ShadowCam looks for ice reflections from the shadowy craters, and by measuring the amount of light scattered and the reflection of the actual light, an estimate can be made about how much water is contained in the ice. But it seems that initial estimates have been overly optimistic, and the current research team is confident that most of these regions either lack ice or have lower concentrations of it. So that's pretty controversial. So we want to get the Artemis program up and running so they can actually check out the lunar, and see if there's
drink
ice
some
there.
lunar ice.
Wow!
And talking about water, we're going to talk about Mars. And there is more evidence that water once flowed on Mars with the discovery of an ancient river delta deep below the surface. NASA's Perseverance rover found it more than 35 meters beneath Jezero crater using ground-penetrating radar. The crater, which is approximately 45 kilometres in diameter, so it's fairly substantial, lies north of the Martian equator and was formed by an asteroid impact almost 4 billion years ago. NASA chose this spot, obviously, to explore because numerous geological features suggest that water once flowed there and may have supported ancient life, specifically a part of the crater called the margin unit. This area is packed with carbonates, which on Earth usually form in stable aqueous environments such as shallow seas or lake beds. Done. Space
Good stuff.
Done. Sign us out,
And
guys.
is the show done too, because that's all we have time for. Thanks to all our subscribers who help us bring the show to you each and every week. You can join them at 4ZZZ.org.au, which is also where you can listen back to the full recording of this show with all the music and everything else, as well as a bunch of our previous shows. The condensed version is available on your podcasting platform of choice. Just search up No Idea 4ZZZ, like Peter said. It's a visual pun on an audio platform. It's No Idea 4ZZZ. Watch us back on socials on the same handle, No Idea 4ZZZ. Well, we'll post the video of that sperm whale headbutting stuff soon too.
Good.
Thanks to Toby for editing up the pod, and thanks to you, Max, Izzy, and Peter for your stories this week. We'll be back in your ears. Oh, no, Izzy. Why did I say Izzy? I'm so used to saying Izzy. We've got no Izzy in the room today. Well, thanks.
Izzy's
No thanks to
spirit
you,
stays
Izzy,
with us.
for being too sick to talk on radio. Thanks to you, Max, and Peter for your stories this week. We'll be back in your ears next week. Between now and then, keep out of the way of feisty sperm whales. Get ready to charge your quantum batteries and free your fidget factor.
And we'll speak to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.